Tonight, a powerful quake in the central Philippine province of Cebu kills dozens and wrecks homes and Hispanic-era churches. National government agencies rush to the aid of Cebu after the quake-stricken province declares a state of calamity. A Philippine Senate resolution urges the International Criminal Court to recognize the failing health of detained ex-President Rodrigo Duterte and grant him house arrest. And a Philippine Supreme Court ruling against two laws effectively postpones the October polls for the Bangsamoro Parliament. Good evening. I'm Tony Velasquez. On our broadcast tonight, scenes of fear and devastation as the Philippine province of Cebu is struck by a powerful quake late Tuesday. The tremor emanating from a fault that had not moved in the past 4 centuries. Jervis Manahan has tonight's top story.
Lights exploded in front of St. Peter and Paul Parish in Bantayan, Cebu as the magnitude 6.9 earthquake struck at 10 p.m. Tuesday. Moments later, the church's front portion collapsed. Meanwhile, the Archdiocesan Shrine of Santa Rosa de Lima sustained more damage as the church was almost reduced to rubble. Its roof and parts of the bell tower were destroyed. In Cebu City, chaos broke out at an international pageant because of the earthquake. Some hid under tables, while others ran outside the venue. On the Mactan-Mandawi Bridge, traffic came to a standstill as the structure swayed dangerously. Motorists were forced to stop their vehicles while motorcyclists struggled to stay on their bikes. Meanwhile, patients at the Cebu City Medical Center were brought out to the streets. Some who were still in their hospital beds were wheeled out to safety. In the town of Tabuelan, a road became impassable after suffering from huge cracks. In this footage captured by Bayan Patroller Jezreel Salave, a basketball game in Naval Biliran was called off as people rushed out when the ground started to shake. There were attempts to calm the spectators, but panic set in when the power went out. Looking at the map, the northern part of Cebu was the hardest hit. The fault that moved and caused the earthquake has no name and is not yet included in their fault database. It is also offshore, which means it lies underwater. They say this fault may not have moved in the past 400 years.
Sa katanungan niyo po na kung gaano po katagal natin ina-expect yung ganitong karaming aftershocks, posible pong weeks, pwede rin pong months. So medyo may katagalan pa po. Mabuti na nga lang po, karamihan po nito ay hindi po natin nararamdaman. Pero mahalaga pa rin po na lagi po tayong nakahanda kung sakasakali man pong magkaroon ng mga pagyanig. Doon naman po sa katanungan nyo, kung posible bang magkaroon uli ng ganitong kalakas na earthquake, mahirap po ma'am sabihin iyan.
They also said this earthquake is different from the 2013 Bohol quake because this was a strike-slip movement where the fault moved side to side or horizontally.
Itong gumalaw ngayon is side to side yung paggalaw. Yung sa Bohol, yun po yung tinatawag naming reverse fault. Umangat po yung lupa, umangat po yung fault. Yun. Medyo may kalakasan po yung sa Bohol.
They have sent a quick response team of experts from PHIVOLCS to study this earthquake further. They do not expect it to trigger movements in other faults in the Philippines, including those in Metro Manila. Jervis Manahan, ABS-CBN News.
Rescue workers help injured survivors in the epicenter of the Cebu earthquake, which flattened homes and damaged public infrastructure. The details in this report.
The Philippine province of Cebu is reeling from the catastrophic effects of a magnitude 6.9 earthquake which struck late Tuesday evening. The quake's epicenter, located near the city of Bogo, sent people out on the streets and residents fleeing from their homes. The shallow quake caused damage to homes, businesses, and public infrastructure. Rescue operations were immediately carried out for quake victims. But the work is slow and deliberate due to damaged roads and buildings. Fear and panic quickly turned to grief as bodies were pulled out from collapsed homes.
Gikan kami nangaon ato. Opo jud to, pagkuan na mo. Opo jud to. Kalit na lang jud. Last na ko kita sa kupapa dito kasi nasa lamisa. Paghunong na uli mi, nakuha na mi nga nadatugan na siya. Gikuha na sa mo ang silingan.
Most of the injured were rushed to the Bogo Provincial Hospital, but many patients were forced to seek treatment in other medical facilities as quake victims overwhelmed the local hospital. The governor of Cebu couldn't contain her emotions in the face of huge devastation.
I don't know, it's catastrophic yun. Kung sa'yo nahitabo diri karon sa Bugo, no? It's heartbreaking.
In Bogo City alone, 30 people were killed, including children and senior citizens. There is still no electricity and water supply is scarce. The governor is appealing for urgent aid, such as potable water and packed meals, especially for patients. The local government is also seeking the deployment of additional ambulances to transport serious medical cases. A state of calamity has been declared over the entire province of Cebu.
The Tuesday evening quake in Cebu was powerful enough to be felt in nearby island provinces. This story from Roland Escaniel.
The magnitude 6.9 earthquake that rocked Cebu Tuesday was also felt in other provinces. In Iloilo City, several residents and call center workers were seen rushing out to the streets. Some mall employees quickly ducked under tables, and a swimming pool on top of a condominium was seen spilling water. Around 70 students of Pasay City College were rushed to the hospital after fainting from dizziness, while some experienced a panic attack. The quake struck while they were holding an acquaintance party inside the Pasay City Arena.
We had an acquaintance party sa Pasay, doon sa may Pasay Arena. So, around 70 ng mga students doon is naka-experience ng fainting. They were brought to the hospital and then na-release din naman kaagad.
Work at the Iloilo Provincial Government was temporarily suspended Wednesday morning after cracks were discovered in the building during aerial and ground inspections conducted by the Provincial Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Office.
We found out that there were cracks sa mga walls ng Kapitolyo, which were later found out and identified by the Provincial Engineer's Office na hindi naman masyadong alarming, which is why at 10:25 this morning, nakapag-decide or na-evaluate ng Engineer's Office natin that the building are still structurally fit for occupancy.
By Wednesday afternoon, provincial government employees had returned to work while the Iloilo PDRRMO and the Provincial Engineering Office continued their assessment of the structure to ensure the safety of employees and the public. Members of the Office of the Building Official and the City Engineer's Office also conducted inspections of the Iloilo City Hall building. No casualties were reported in the city and province of Iloilo following the strong earthquake. The tremor was also felt in Negros Island. At Santa Maria Magdalena Parish in the town of Hinigaran, Negros Occidental, cracks were seen at the back of the church, while corals attached to its wall fell off. The church was built in 1858 will undergo further assessment to check if other structures were also damaged. The church, however, remains open. The provincial government of Negros Occidental also conducted a structural integrity assessment at the capital and all provincial government buildings to ensure their safety. Roland Escaniel, ABS-CBN News.
The Philippine government mobilizes resources to aid communities severely affected by the Cebu quake. Andrea Taguines reports.
The BRP Teresa Magbanwa has departed from Manila bound for Cebu, carrying doctors, nurses, and other medical personnel from the Philippine Coast Guard. They're also bringing medical equipment to earthquake-hit communities following Tuesday's magnitude 6.9 tremor.
Being an earthquake, nandiyan talaga ang mga trauma cases. No? So, ang team naman natin ay well-equipped to respond to this kind of situations.
The PCG said it has also deployed 9 canine search and rescue teams and water desalination units.
Ito po yung may kakayahang mag-produce ng halos 20,000 liters of portable water. So pwede po itong inumin. So malaki po itong tulong sa mga evacuees po natin at sa mga hospitals.
According to the Office of Civil Defense, as of 12 noon Wednesday, nearly 70 deaths have been recorded across several towns in Cebu.
Ang sentro natin ay Bogo City, no? Doon sa northern part ng Cebu. Doon po ang maraming casualties at maraming damage. So doon po nakasentro ang ating response. Marami dyan yung ipit, nahulugan ng debris which caused their death.
The Social Welfare Department has committed to cover burial expenses. Families of the deceased will also receive an additional 10,000 peso cash assistance. The injured can also take advantage of the no-balance billing policy in hospitals.
I've actually asked our PhilHealth president to issue a similar issuance that we issued during Typhoon Haiyan, wherein all of these patients will be covered on a no-balance billing with PhilHealth para pati yung mga casualties sa earthquake makapunta sa private hospital and then matreat sila.
The OCD advising evacuees not to return home until it's declared safe.
Meron pa pong mga maaring maganap na aftershock, kaya kung hindi pa po safe, balikan yung inyong mga dwellings, mga opisina, mga bahay.
That's as authorities continue to conduct inspections.
We're still assessing the damage there. But the earthquake was very strong. So we're assessing the needs.
May mga roads na nag-crack, so we have to really assess first and then quickly act on them para maging passable lahat ng roads. Kasi we need the roads to be passable for goods to come in, for relief to come in.
The Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines, for its part, reported no structural damage at the Mactan Cebu International Airport and other airports in the Visayas. The Cebu-Cordova Link Expressway likewise remains passable to motorists. The Information and Communications Technology Department assuring the public that work is ongoing to restore critical communication lines.
Kailangan sana by this weekend normalize na siya kasi kailangan po yan doon sa emergency response. At saka alam nyo, kinakabakabahan yung mga kamag-anak nila yung mga kamag-anak sa Cebu. Yung kailangan magsabi na sila sa mga kamag-anak nila kung safe sila, kung may pangangailangan sila. At saka pagdating po sa mga ATM at banking, kailangan din po ng internet.
Meanwhile, the United States and Canadian embassies in Manila have both expressed their readiness to support the Philippines' disaster response. Vice President Sara Duterte also extended prayers and condolences to Cebuanos, saying her office is preparing a relief drive in the province. For the next 60 days, the Trade and Energy Departments will be imposing a price freeze on basic commodities in Cebu, as well as on petroleum products such as LPG and kerosene. Andrea Taguines, ABS-CBN News.
Philippine President Marcos Jr. visits the storm-ravaged province of Masbate to assure residents of continued government support. He announced the release of 100 million pesos to aid Masbate's recovery efforts. Severe tropical storm Opong battered Masbate over the weekend, killing at least 18 people and leaving the island without power. The province is now under a state of calamity.
Kaya nandito kami lahat upang lahat ng pangangailangan ng mga na-displace, yung nawalan ng bahay, wala ng tirahan, ay mabigyan ng tulong. Huwag kayo mag-alala, patuloy po ang suporta ng pamahalaan hanggat nangangailangan kayo. Kahit na matagalan tayo ng konti dahil hindi pa nyo naaayos ang inyong mga tahanan, nakasupport na kami.
President Marcos Jr. is expected to visit Cebu on Thursday to inspect the aftermath of the quake which hit the province Tuesday evening. A ruling by the Philippine Supreme Court effectively postpones the parliamentary polls for the country's Bangsamoro region. It struck down as unconstitutional two laws changing the region's parliamentary districts and redistributing seats originally allocated to Sulu province. The High Court says the redistribution of Sulu seats violates the Voters Registration Act, which bars precinct changes during an election period. It ruled that the October 13 polls cannot be held without a valid districting law. Elections Commission Chairman George Garcia says the poll body will wait for the Bangsamoro Parliament's next move. The Supreme Court has told the Commission to prepare to hold the Bangsamoro polls not later than March 31 next year. Two suspects in the 2020 murder of a Philippine state lottery official have turned themselves in to authorities. Ex-police officer Nelson Mariano and another cop, Santi Mendoza, surrendered shortly after warrants of arrest were issued for them and three other suspects. They testified at a house inquiry last year that former Police Colonel Royina Garma and former Police Commissioner Edilberto Leonardo had orchestrated the ambush killing of Wesley Barayuga. Garma and Leonardo allegedly made it appear that Barayuga was the target of an anti-narcotics operation. The National Bureau of Investigation says it will ask Interpol to help bring back Garma, who is now believed to be in Malaysia. Coming up, Philippine senators approve a resolution urging the International Criminal Court to allow house arrest for detained ex-Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte. This and other stories when the World Tonight returns. We're back on the World Tonight. A Philippine Senate resolution urges the International Criminal Court to grant house arrest to detained ex-Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte. 15 senators voted to approve the resolution, which was jointly authored by the majority and minority leaders. They say house arrest for the 80-year-old Duterte should be granted on humanitarian grounds. The resolution proposes that an ICC-designated physician assess his condition to determine whether his current detention at The Hague is deemed harmful to his health. The Senate resolution was immediately criticized by Cristina Conti, who's serving as an ICC assistant to counsel. She says it's counterproductive and points out the Philippine Senate is not involved in the ICC process. Conti warns this could backfire on Duterte if the ICC views the resolution as political intrusion and proof that the Dutertes still have significant political clout in the Philippines. Philippine Justice Secretary Jesus Crispin Remulla expects no less than 200 people could be charged for fund and construction anomalies in government flood control projects. Remulla says these could include dozens of congressmen and public works officials.
Maraming remedies na binibigay ang bansa, but we cannot tell you that now because we have to agree on the proper way to go about the cases. Because what you're talking about here is that you have more than 100 people to 200 people involved. Reportedly, there are 67 proven interests already, conflict of interest existing within the halls of Congress. So we're looking at that. We're looking at this list closely.
The Justice Secretary also says his department is looking into alleged prohibited interests of the family of incumbent Senators Mark and Camille Villar.
Yung first cousin niya, yung contractor, doon sa lugar nila. So, that's a prohibited interest. But we have to flesh it out. Kasi we cannot rely on a newspaper as a source of evidence. It's just a media gives us the leads that we have to follow.
12 Filipino sailors are among 19 crewmen rescued from a cargo vessel that was attacked on Monday by Houthi militants in the Gulf of Aden. A rescue team sent by the European Union evacuated the crew by helicopter. The Philippine Migrant Workers Department confirms the crew are now in a secure location. The Filipinos are to be flown home to Manila this weekend. Philippine President Marcos Jr. welcomes the improvement in his satisfaction rating. A June survey by the social weather stations puts it at 46%. That's an 8% jump from the previous SWS survey in April. The president says it's a sign that he needs to keep performing in whatever situation he faces. The SWS says the president's latest satisfaction rating is considered as good performance.
It's, of course, it's nice to note. I didn't know about that, but now that you tell me, of course, I'm glad that it's that way. I guess we just have to keep working. Wala naman whatever is happening.
The U.S. government shuts down much of its operations after Congress and the White House failed to reach a budget deal. The Senate failed to pass a short-term measure to keep the government open through November. Republican senators blocked a push by Democrats to include an extension of health benefits, which are set to expire this year. The shutdown could force more than 750,000 federal workers to stay home without pay. U.S. President Trump warns this could result in deeper cuts to government jobs and programs. The Oktoberfest fairgrounds in Munich are closed after it received a bomb threat that may be linked to an earlier explosion in northern Munich. Police say at least one person was killed in the blast. Authorities evacuated the festival site and searched for explosives. This year's Oktoberfest began on September 20 and will end on October 5th. The world's largest beer festival usually attracts up to 6 million visitors. Philippine shares bucked an Asia-wide decline and began the year's final trading quarter with a gain. Michelle Ong reports.
Most Asian markets stuttered this Wednesday after lawmakers in Washington failed to reach a deal to avert a U.S. government shutdown, although volumes are slim, with China and Hong Kong closed for the Golden Week holiday. Here at home, Philippine shares headed the other direction, finally snapping a 7-day losing streak to start the month and quarter on a stronger footing.
It's battered by negative sentiment, lots of noise and a lot of scandal. All of these are a bit worrisome. So very weak sentiment. It's just that. But I think fundamental-wise, we're still on the growth path. The economy will be growing like above 5%. I think that's the positive thing about this economy. We have we have youthful energy in our economy, demographic dividends, consumption-led. And I think we're going to be accelerating a bit, even a bit. Because, of course, we have this infrastructure spending challenge. It may slow, and therefore our infrastructure disbursement may be lower than the ideal of 5% to GDP. So that will have negative repercussions on 2026 budget. But still, we are going to be in the growth path, and that suggests that corporate earnings could hold like around 9%, 8% next year. And given the backdrop of declining real yields, lower interest rates, and there is this heightened political risk premium, and so investors are demanding higher returns, which may not be achievable in the near term, and so there is this hold position. This stands on a wait and see and increased caution. But I think the economy and the market is in a transition phase.
In corporate stories, UAE's premium grocery store chain Spinneys is coming to Manila. Ayala Corporation is partnering with a group for the brand's first expansion outside of the Gulf Cooperation Council. Spinneys is a premium supermarket retailer with a network of 87 stores in the UAE, Oman, and Saudi Arabia. It is owned by AI Sear Group, a consumer holdings company with business interests in industries such as food, retail, hospitality, shipyards, and construction, with presence in over 20 countries. On to another Ayala company, Integrated Microelectronics, has announced the consolidation of IMI Kuichong in Shenzhen, China, to its nearby facility in Pingshan, Shenzhen. This is still part of efforts to drive efficiency across the organization, streamline operations, and cut costs amid a challenging semiconductor industry. Michelle Long, ABS-CBN News.
The Commission on Appointments has confirmed the Philippine Energy Secretary Sharon Garin and Information and Communications Tech Secretary Henry Aguda. Lawmakers praised Garin's leadership in the energy sector and Aguda's decades of experience in technology. Aguda assured the public of the DICT's continued efforts to improve internet connectivity and to protect Filipinos from cyber attacks. The commission also approved several promotions in the Armed Forces of the Philippines. Our final word tonight is a quote from Robert Kiyosaki. History reminds us that dictators and despots arise during times of severe economic crisis. And that is the world tonight, the 1st of October 2025. I'm Tony Velasquez. ABS-CBN News Channel is now available for live and on-demand streaming on iWant. From the Philippines, thank you. Mabuhay!